waifus, trade fights for better views. We both need something new. Maybe we should just tell them.
Hello, hive-minded readers, and welcome to the Books and the Bees podcast. Just like bees play a crucial role in pollinating flowers and sustaining life, books pollinate minds and nurture the soul. We see the connection between the two, the delicate dance of ideas and stories that enrich our lives.
I'm Hailey.
I'm Cody.
Welcome to our podcast.
Hello, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
We're rallying.
We're rallying. We need like a blowhorn, like meow, meow,
We
meow,
do.
meow.
We can
Hailey,
make
how's it
our
going?
own air horn. It's going.
We should. Yeah, we should make our own hair horn.
It's going. How was your day? How was your week?
Week has been good. I've gotten a shit ton of reading in, which I'll talk about in a second. Because I'm like wrapping up my job, so I'm rolling into like a month and a half of free time basically. So
Nice.
I'm just like getting books off hold, starting to read them, not really having a care in the world. So
That's so exciting.
It's chill, yeah. So yeah, it's been fun. How's your week been?
It's been. No, it hasn't been too bad. I'm just so tired. For our listeners, I had to eat some cookies to rally because it's too late for coffee at this point, and I didn't have time to make any. So
Yeah. What kind of cookies?
So I'm eating the Milano, the Pepperidge Farm. Shout out, Target?
Those are so
question
good.
mark.
Oh, those are so good.
They're so good. They're just the plain milk chocolate ones, but pretty much any of the like Milano brand cookies or Pepperidge Farm cookies are just delicious.
They are. I love the I forget what they're called. I think they're called chessboard, but they're like the shortbread cookies that they have, and oh my god, those are delicious. I love them so much.
Yeah, they have like a little like raspberry, I think it's raspberry jam cookie.
Ooh.
It's like shortbread with the jam in the middle. Oh, so good.
Oh, I gotta try that. That's right up my alley for sure. That sounds fire.
It's like the perfect like tea reading cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
God, I love tea and cookies so much.
I know. It just like hits a spot.
Yeah, it does.
Something about it.
It does. I should have made Earl Grey. I had a cup of coffee. We went out to dinner to this like it's like this big area with a bunch of different places, kind of like a mall, like a food mall area. And then there was a coffee shop, so we went and had dinner, and I had this really good like curry with chicken, and then went and had a cup of coffee, an Americano, and it was really good. So I'm like perked up and ready to go.
Yeah, that sounds so good. And also curry, yum.
Oh, it was so good. It was like chicken katsu with curry. Oh, it was really good. Yeah,
that sounds so good. I had some gyoza. We had Jersey Mike's last night.
God, I love Jersey Mike's. That's a new thing for me. I didn't used to love it, but I love Jersey Mike's and I love gyoza. Yeah,
it was. My husband had he ended up having his leftovers from Jersey Mike's last night. Tonight, so I fried up some gyoza and had some rice, and yeah, it was so good. And we found this like Japanese, it's like a honey barbecue Japanese sauce. Oh, it's so good.
That sounds really good.
It's like the perfect sauce to it's almost like a glaze. It's not quite a sauce, it's more of a glaze, and it's perfect over some gyoza with some oh man,
yummy.
Yeah, such a good dinner.
Was it like Trader Joe's gyoza or?
It's from Costco.
Okay.
It's in like a big there's like so many in the packet. It's like ridiculous amount of food. So it's made like quite a few meals.
Yeah.
But I really do love getting gyoza from like, like a restaurant, but yeah, it's really good in a pinch from.
It is. Yeah. And it's so much cheaper, like when you buy it frozen, like you can buy a shit ton of them for cheap versus like, I mean, the restaurant ones are better, but they're kind of pricey for what you get usually. So yeah,
usually it's only like what, like 8 sometimes, like maybe if you're lucky 4 mostly, like.
Yeah, and they're definitely pricey for sure.
Yeah, but so good.
I got Trader Joe's like maybe a month ago, and it lasted. It was a while ago, I guess, because it's been gone for a while. But I ended up like making like 6 or 8 meals out of the package because it was so much. And my wife doesn't really like them, so it was just for me. So I would just like cook it for lunch or something if I was working from home or whatever. Yeah, it was perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. Ugh. Sounds like we've had some good food.
Yeah, we have. And some good drinks too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a packed podcast because we are covering the best books of the year that we read so far. So we are going to transition into that. But first, Hailey, what are you reading?
I actually just finished. It's called Blitzed by Alexa Martin. It's I don't remember if I brought it up before, but it's the 3rd book in the playbook series of hers. It's another sports romance. It's football. It's good. It's, you know, I can't say much more. It's good. Read it.
I think you brought it up last week, and I remember being really interested in it for sure.
Yep. I just finished it today, so yeah, I don't really have anything else that I'm reading. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. It's a good time though for like a sports romance. Like summer is a great time for that.
I really agree. Yeah. What
Cool.
are you reading right now, Cody?
Well, I just finished a book too called Real Americans by Rachel Khong, and I have to say, like, we picked our 5 before I finished this book, and I'm kind of cheating by including this in as my what I read, because I absolutely loved this book so much. It is kind of like a literary fiction, and it's one of like the big like GMA book club books or something, so it's very popular. And it's basically about this immigrant mother who is from China. She moves to America, has a daughter, and it's about their relationship. And it kind of rotates. Like the first third of the book is about from the daughter's perspective, and then the second third is her son that she ends up having, and it kind of follows through the generations of this family. And it's very good. It's a very like character driven book. So if you're a big character fan, I recommend that. And it was, I mean, I just absolutely loved it. I devoured it, and I'm going to like go buy a physical copy because A, it's beautiful, and B, like this book is just so good. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I think I'll be thinking about it for a while. So yeah, really, really good.
Wow. I love to hear it.
Yeah, we do. It's great when a book like makes you feel that way. It doesn't happen every book, unfortunately. My cat is like screaming at me. For the listeners, that's Luna. She also loves that book so much. That's why she's talking about it.
Even the cat's screaming for it.
Yeah, because I don't think I can cut this out. So we're just going to keep it in.
I just looked up the book, and it looks really cool.
It's such a good book, and it's very much like, I actually thought the author was a scientist because the mom who immigrated is like a geneticist, and it was actually like really, I thought pretty accurate as far as like the details and stuff. Like she didn't get too in the nitty gritty, but it felt like it was a scientist writing it, and I'm a scientist, so yeah, it just like it hit all the spots for me. It's just super good book. It reminded me a lot of R.F. Khong, like her work, which I've talked about how big of a fan I am of her. And yeah, it felt very much like one of her books, and it was just, yeah, I highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I just started a book called The Z Word by Lindsay King Miller. And this book I wanted to talk about for our Pride episode, but I hadn't gotten it on hold from the library yet. It is about a zombie apocalypse that starts during Pride, like a Pride party. The zombie apocalypse starts, and basically all hell breaks loose. And it's supposed to be really funny and very like queer, forward. Like all the characters are a part of the community, and it's supposed to be really fun and great. I'm like 2 chapters in, and so far I really enjoyed it, but that's as far as I'm at, so I'll probably give an update next week. But yeah, it's really, really good too. I like it so far.
Nice.
Yeah. Kicking it with these good books lately.
Yeah.
Yep.
On the good book train.
Whoop whoop. Or wah wah, whatever train. That's a boat. I don't know. I don't know what trains sound like.
Woo woo.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. I got to go back to preschool and learn my noises.
The train makes.
The train makes. The cow goes. That's funny. I haven't thought about those in a while.
Me either.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so we got a lot of good books to talk about, so I think we should just jump into it. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, Hailey, why don't you start with your first favorite of the year?
Yeah. So my first favorite of the year, and I believe I've probably talked about it before in an episode past, but it is the partner plot, and this is not really in any particular order. I will say that before I get into these books, but
Right.
yeah, none of these are in any particular order. Like, it's not like greatest to least greatest or anything. It's just, I'm just throwing them out there. But it's The Partner Plot by Kristina Forrest. Such a good book. So it's the second book in, and I don't really know if it's like a series or not, actually considered a series or not. But just such a good book. It's fun. It's kind of a what's that called? Like a marriage of convenience type of deal. It's
Yeah, like arranged, kind of.
not so much arranged, but like a more like a, what am I trying to say? Like, you know, like the types of, you know, like forced proximity kind of, but like it's not like a forced marriage or anything, but it was like
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah,
but
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but really good. Such a good book overall. And I read, so obviously this is the second book. I read The Neighbor Favor first, and then
Great book.
It's a great book, such a good book. And then the second one was just like even better. I think Kristina Forrest has the next book coming out soon or something.
Awesome.
Because I think she just released like the cover art for the next book. But yeah, I mean, it's about, so it's kind of following some sisters. Like I think each book is like describing each sister's like love interest type of deal. It's I guess I can just kind of give like a synopsis of what the book description is. But it's two former high school sweethearts get a second chance in this marriage of convenience romance by Kristina Forrest, author of The Neighbor Favor. To Violet Green, fashion is everything. As a successful celebrity stylist, she travels all over the world, living out her dreams. Professionally, she's thriving, but her personal life is in shambles. After surviving a very public breakup with her ex-fiancé 6 months ago, Violet is now determined to focus on her career. But life hands her something, or rather someone, that might derail everything. Xavier Wright did not expect to run into his high school girlfriend Violet, the girl he once thought he'd marry on a birthday trip to Vegas. As a high school teacher and basketball coach, he rarely leaves his New Jersey hometown, so what were the chances? But when the initial shock wears off, they decide to celebrate together. They feel young and reckless as they party the night away, and the reckless they clearly were when the following morning they wake up beside each other with rings on their fingers. Their impulsive nuptials might be blessing in disguise, though when they realize that both of their careers could benefit from the marriage, so they play the part of a blissfully wedded couple. Yet, when their passion comes hurling back, they realize their feelings are just as real as they were back when they were teens. But are their lives too different to stick it through, or will they finally get a happy ending? So, yeah, just it's a cute book. It's definitely a contemporary romance. Yeah, I definitely recommend it for sure, and it's probably one of my favorites that I read this year.
Yeah. I know I got it off hold at the library, and then I was in like I think I was in the height of like Throne of Glass at the time. And so I just wasn't in the zone to read that, but I'm definitely going to be reading it before the end of the year because I really, really liked Neighbor Favor, and this one sounds like I'm gonna like it too. So yeah, I definitely need to read it.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely going to be like one of those series where they just keep getting better like the more you read. So
yeah, and I'm super stoked about the third one. I hadn't heard about it yet, so that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. What's your first book?
So my first one is also kind of a romance, but it's a fantasy romance, and I'm almost certain I've talked about it on the podcast. It's called Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett, and it is a sequel as well to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and it's very much like a fantasy, academic, cozy romance where the two main interests, which I won't say specifically, I mean, Emily Wilde is obviously one of the characters because that's the name of the book, but the person that she's with is a little bit of a spoiler for the first book, so I won't say much, but they basically are going off to try to understand the world that they're in, which is like fairies that integrate with humans, but humans don't know not a lot about them. So there's like an academic field that's focused on studying fairies, and Emily Wilde is like a professor who's studying fairies, and it's just, I don't know, the first book was great, and this book I actually liked more than the first book, because it flowed really well. I really like the story, and the world that they kind of describe in this part of the book I thought was really great. And it's also got kind of more like a mystery element to it. Just a really, really fun book. I definitely recommend it. Like, it's a very casual read, and so if you're in between two hefty books, this is a really good a palate cleanser for it. And yeah, just really liked it. It's on a lot of tops of the year books lists, so it's not a big surprise, but yeah, I just really, really liked it.
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of people talk about it, especially right when it came out. It seemed like it was a pretty big buzzy book.
Yeah, and it came out early this year too, like February, I think. Like I think it's been a few months that it's been out, so yeah.
Awesome.
What is your second book, Hailey?
So my second book, and I know I've talked about this one as well, but it's Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. It's definitely one of those books that I was not expecting to enjoy, because it's a golf book. It's a sports romance, but it's about golf, or it revolves around golf anyways. And I really truly was not expecting to love it as much as I did, but I absolutely loved this book. Such a good book. First of all, the color is beautiful. It's the most prettiest green color. And it's about this girl who is like she's a number one fan of this pro golfer, and she isn't necessarily in love with him, but she's very much pro him, and then he kind of does something that kind of makes her question her loyalty as a fan to him, and then it kind of it's a happenstance type of situation where they get thrown together and are kind of forced to work together.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, and then they kind of slowly fall for each other. Spoilers, I guess. But it's definitely a happily ever after. It's very good. It was one of those books where you were rooting for them both, and then if they did something dumb, you wanted to reach for the book and just shake them and be like, what the heck,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it is such a good book, and I'm a pretty big fan of Tessa Bailey. I think she's a great author. She writes pretty good books, but this one it was just a really good book overall. I can't remember if it was this book in particular, but I'm pretty sure I remember getting a little teary-eyed while I was reading certain parts too.
Aww.
And that takes a lot to evoke such emotion. So yeah, just really good book. I definitely recommend it. I've seen a few people on Bookstagram post about it, and there was a particular like book house. I don't know what they're called, but like they do like special editions. And there's a special edition of one of the books, and it's so like pretty. It has the oh my gosh, like what's like, I think it's called Argyle, but I could totally be wrong when I say that. Like the typical like golf like diamond pattern.
I think that's
that
right.
people wear.
I think that's right. Yeah.
But it had that on like the book edges on the pages, and it was really cool looking, and it had like art done on from the book, like from a certain scene in the book, and it was cool, and I wanted it really bad, but
that is cool. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So I really need to read that book, because we've talked about it a decent amount on the podcast, and it's definitely one that I'm interested in. So yeah, that's for sure on my list.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those books that you're like, okay, like golf, okay, like whatever, and then you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so good.
Yay, awesome.
Yeah, what's your second book?
My second book is one that I talked about, I think it was last week, but you know, it's our top of the year and I have to include it.
Oh, really?
It's Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I loved this book. It's a contemporary romance as well, very casual, and it's about, I think I mentioned it last week, but it's the main character's name is Daphne, and she is engaged at the beginning of the book to Peter, and Peter is best friends with a girl named Petra, and they've been best friends since they were kids. Like, he is sworn to Daphne that like they're just best friends, there's nothing between them, there's no romantic like feelings for them. And he goes to his bachelor party, and Petra's invited because she's his best friend. And Petra admits that she has feelings for Peter, and so Peter dumps Daphne, and then Daphne ends up moving in with Petra's ex, Miles. And so they've both been dumped by each other's now ex's relationship.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so they have to they live together, and they have to like deal with that, and there's a little bit of a spark that happens between them, and it's just a really, for one, it's a super funny book, and the romance is really sweet, and she's a librarian, so it's got a little bit of a bookish element to it as well. Just a great book. I recommend it through audio. That's how I listened to it. It was just really, really good, and just a great way to, like, you know, catch the bus and listen to a book or whatever you do when you're listening to stuff. It's definitely really good. Yeah.
That sounds so good. I can't wait to read that book.
You're gonna love it. I know you're gonna love it. Yeah. It's really good. Yeah, my wife's gonna love it too. I told her to read it as soon as she could, so
yes,
I'm excited for her to read it. Yeah, it's really good. Highly recommend.
Hell yeah.
What is your third book, Hailey?
Yeah, so my third book is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Sorry, I was reading my notes, and I think autocorrected Ali to Ali's.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even catch that until just now.
I was like, wait, what? I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute. But it's Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Kind of a controversial book a little bit among the book world, which is so funny to me because, like, by no means are, like, any of Ali Hazelwood books, like, PG. You know, it's very, like, on-page romance, you know? So Bride it's a fantasy romance, vampire versus werewolf type of situation, and it's also kind of like a forced marriage, but like eventually, you know, the main characters like learn to love each other, and it's also one of those books where like the main character, the female main character, she's kind of like what's the word? Like, she's, it's not that she's naive. She's just very much, like, so against that the other person could love her that she kind of like takes all of the like cues and signals that they're giving her that they like her as like they must be repulsed by her sort of situation, which is like so funny. I think it adds like a great layer to the book because the whole time, like as a reader that you're reading this book, at least for me anyways, as you're like reading this book, you're like, it's so obvious, but the main character is like, no way, like they hate me. And so the whole time you're like, it's so obvious, but really good book. It's well written. It's right up my alley as far as, you know, paranormal romances go. It's a pretty, like, I wouldn't call it like a super long read by any means. It's got some spice for sure. You know, kind of people, there's a certain element to the book that had people gasping and shocked, I guess. But for me, it was like, okay, well, that's not like too crazy. It's nothing like completely out of pocket, I didn't think. But yeah, such a good book, and I adore Ali Hazelwood. I think that like her books are just fantastic, all of them, at least the ones that I've read, anyways. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite that I've read, obviously, this year so far. Anyways, it's just so good. I definitely recommend it. I recommend go get it, and the book's really cool. I really like the cover art, and yeah, I mean, it's just overall such a good book.
Yes, that's another one, yet again, that I need to get on because I actually bought it physically for I bought it for my wife when I was in somewhere. I don't remember where I was. And so I can actually look at the book right now on my bookshelf, and I don't know if she's read it. She might have, but I haven't read it yet. And it's definitely one that I really, really want to read. And the cover is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it just looks really, really nice.
It's really cool. And yeah, it's definitely like not your average paranormal romance, that's for sure.
Well, if we can read Ice Planet Barbarians, I think, you know,
yes,
we can make it through Bride.
Exactly. I think if you can read Ice Planet Barbarians, you can pretty much make it through anything, but you know. Yeah,
that's true. I think that's true. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. What is your next book?
So my next book is one, it actually just came out, but I read it as an ARC a few months ago. And he's one of my favorite authors, so it's not a surprise he's on my list, but it's Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. This book he's so good at horror. His thing is like, you know, did the scary stuff actually involve ghosts or paranormal stuff or not? Like you always get kind of this weird ambiguity with his books, but he does that so well. And this book in particular is about like a super indie homemade horror movie in the 90s where there's like 4 people filming it and a bunch of stuff kind of goes wrong because it's not like, you know, a safe, you know, it's not people that are trained, so it's not really a safe like filming situation. And you don't really know what's kind of happening, and it just kind of has this weird tension, and it kind of goes back and forth between when the movie was in the 90s as it was being made and then the modern era where the person who was kind of starring as the main person in the movie, he's now kind of famous because of this cult following from this clip of this movie, because the movie didn't even get released because a bunch of shit went down. And it was I just loved it. It was super fast paced. It's 90s nostalgia, which is one of my favorite things. I just love it when a book is bringing back the 90s in a lot of ways. And yeah, Paul Tremblay, every one of his books I've loved. And so this one did not disappoint. The cover is also really cool. It's got red colored edges. And it's pretty quick too. It's only like 250 pages, I want to say. So like it's a pretty speedy movie. It's a pretty speedy book. And yeah, it's just really good horror. And this is a great time for this kind of horror because I love to also read horror movies in the summer, or horror. I keep saying movies because there's movie in the book title. I love to read horror books in the summertime because, like camping and, scary woods. That's kind of something that I like to read. Yeah, I love summer camp horror. Like that's one of my favorite tropes is camping horror, which is kind of scary because I go camping a lot in the summer usually. And when I'm reading a camping horror novel while I'm camping, it does get a little spooky. So yeah. But it's really good. This is definitely like one of those books that you want to maybe like have the right headspace when you're going into it, but I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it sounds so good. I feel like all of our books are sounding just so good. Like,
yeah, we've both had really good books this year. Like, it's been a great year for reading, I would say. Like, there's been some bangers that have come out this year. Truly. And like, yeah, it's just insane. And there's even more coming, which we're going to talk about next week. There's just like, no matter what, every week new books are coming out that are just, off the wall good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What is your next book, Hailey?
So my next book, which is so funny, I also read it as an ARC before it came out, but it has since came out. And I know I've mentioned it quite a few times, and I think I actually mentioned it last episode. But I think it's worth repeating again, because I think the author really deserves the clout, and I think that they deserve to be talked about. Obviously in a good way, and that author is Talia Greer, and the book is Alder King Spring. Such a fantastic book. Literally, like, I think it's like one of my favorite books I've ever read. Not just like this year, but definitely this year, but like ever read. It's just such a good, it was well written. I really loved the characters, and I really, 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 really loved the kind of like new spin on a very old like trope / tale that's pretty common, kind of like a Beauty and the Beast type of scenario, but just like the way it's written is really good, and the twists and turns that happen are like ones that you don't really expect to be happening. So it's the two main characters. The one of them basically is like an spirit, like a forest spirit, I guess, for lack of a better term, and who's like cursed to like spend his life out on the lands, on his like lands that his like family owned. And he has like magical powers. It's also got some romance in it, I will add that. But he is like forced to stay within like his dwelling essentially until one day the female main character comes up, and Eliza, she is, I hope that's how I pronounce that name, but Eliza is supposed to be like studying for her thesis in like old fairy tales, and she ends up kind of just like at his dwelling, and like things kind of happen that make her go like weird, like I wonder like what's going on. And then there's like a witch who like casts the curse initially. She plays a pretty big role, and she's, the main antagonist, and she, some stuff happens with her, and it, I'm not gonna get too much into it because I don't want to spoil, but it's just a really good book. And they like have to break the curse, obviously. And it's very much like Beauty and the Beast, but like so much better. But yeah, and it's dual POV. It's definitely got like that. I know, yes, and I love a dual POV. Listen,
yeah, I do too.
A shout out to all the authors who do dual POV. How many times am I going to say that word? And especially from like a male like mindset POV, I just like, I applaud them every time that they write from that like shift, and also the ones that can make it so that like it feels like you're reading two different characters' perspectives. It's just so good. Definitely recommend it. If you haven't like looked it up or gone out and gotten it, definitely do that. Look it up, go out and buy it if you can. It's definitely worth it. And the like colors of the cover are really cool. It's like a tealy, like really pretty tealy color. Just definitely one of those books that I seriously can't recommend enough.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that sounds really good. It actually came up on my recommended for Kobo, I think
really?
was. Yeah. I don't know if Kobo's listening to our podcast, but they did recommend it to me. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Or maybe I must have read another book that was similar to it or something that led to it. But yeah. It's definitely like I do love retellings. That's something that I've also kind of learned is I don't think I have any here, but I do love retellings. I think they're kind of fun. Oh, I know what it is. My wife is reading the Emily McIntyre series.
Oh yeah.
Like Hooked and then Scarred, and I forget what the other ones are.
Yeah.
So she just finished, I think, the third one, and she was telling me about them, and yeah, they sound really good. I think I'm gonna try Scarred.
Yes.
Since I think that's the Lion King remake, and I love the Lion King, so I'm gonna try that one. I think.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I would definitely recommend Scarred and Hooked. I think Hooked was my favorite out of all the ones that I've read. I think I've read up to book 4, maybe.
Is there a lot?
Yeah, there's a lot, and she's coming out with a new one soon.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check them out. But yeah, Alder King Spring sounds really, really good for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whoop whoop. Yeah.
What's your next book?
My next book is I'm transitioning into. I started with the romance books, and now I'm kind of transitioning into like the horror sci-fi books that I've read this year. I have to mention, I know we've talked about it on the podcast more than once, but Womb City by Tlotlo Tsamaase is like for me one of the top books that I've read. Like obviously this year because that's what this episode's about, but like I just really love this book. It's a debut novel, I think. I'm pretty sure by Tlotlo Tsamaase. It's basically a modern Handmaid's Tale. It takes place in a future version of Botswana, and it's basically where the main character Lyla has a microchip in her brain that her husband can control and like read her memories and see where she's been and like control every aspect of her life. And then all of a sudden she ends up meeting with someone and causes a hit run where basically she ends up hitting somebody and causing a big problem with someone she's not supposed to be with, and the story takes a crazy turn. It is just like a non-stop crazy story, super futuristic sci-fi, super dystopian. Really, really reminds me of Handmaid's Tale, which is one of my favorite books. I love Handmaid's Tale so much, and this was just a modern like showcase of Handmaid's Tale, and I like really, really loved this book. And I think this is a book people should like teach in English, like in parallel with Handmaid's Tale. Like I think it's a really good like modernization of what it's like in like what we could potentially be facing in the future. It was just a fantastic book, and I'm so glad I read it. It was so good, and it was one of the ones that I selected for our like anticipated for the first half of the year.
Yeah.
So actually, I think the first 4 that I've mentioned were on my favorites from the beginning of the year. I think so. I knew what I was gonna like this first half of the year, so that's good. Yeah. But yeah, Womb City was like I heard about it, super stoked for it, and I'm just really, really enjoyed it. Super great book.
Yeah, and it's still on my TBR. I still need to read it. I've just been reading a few other books, but I feel like every time that like we mention it or talk about it, I'm like, oh gosh, like I really need to read that book.
I know. Same with me and like Fangirl Down and Partner Plot. Like every time we bring it up, and even Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Like we've definitely talked about them multiple times. Like I need to circle back and get to it. So
right.
Yeah. That's fun.
It's definitely And like, even though I'm not like the biggest like, you know, I don't know if it's considered like sci-fi, but like, you know what I mean, like not necessarily romance, essentially is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Right.
But even though it's not in that particular wheelhouse, it just, oh gosh, like I really need to read it.
It's really good. It's really, really good. Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Okay, I think, are we on to our last books?
Yeah.
Wow. Hailey, what is your last favorite book of the year?
Yeah.
That sounds weird. What's your fifth favorite book of the year? That also sounds weird. I don't know. It's not like your fifth favorite, like we're not rating them. What's your next favorite book? Let's go with that.
Next favorite book that's came out this year that was really good.
Yes.
So far, right? Because we're only halfway through.
That's right.
I wrote down Swift and Saddled, which I literally just read. Swift and Saddled by Lyla Sage. I just finished it. It's the second book in the Rebel Blue series that she's doing. It's a country cowboy romance, which is something that I never thought would be escaping my lips, but I think I really love cowboy romances. I think they're so cute, and especially the ones from Lyla Sage. I think she is a beautiful writer, talented as all hell. I think she's fairly new to the game, as far as I can tell. I follow her on Instagram. Shout out Lyla Sage on Instagram. But it's such a sweet, and that's it. Like, I think the way I could describe both books is they're just very sweet books. Sweet romances, I guess. Not that they don't have like their, you know, problems that the characters face, but like overall it like they give you the warm cozies, you know. That's kind of like how I felt the whole time that I was reading this book. And so like I said, it's the second book, and I would say that you would have to read this book, like these books, in order. So definitely don't read the second one and then read the first one, because there's some things that happen in the second one and it talks about other characters that you're like, wait a minute, who are these people? So definitely read in order. But and I'm gonna give the book description because I don't think I'll be able to do it justice if I don't. And it says, she's a city girl who refuses to be saddled with a man. He's the cowboy who wants her anyway. The last thing Ada Hart needs is a man to take care of her. Not anymore. After failing out of her interior design program and the disaster that was her short-lived marriage, Ada clawed her way up from her rock bottom. Now the only person she trusts is herself, and that has gotten her further than ever before. She has her own business, and one of the largest ranches in Wyoming just hired her for the most important project of her career. When Ada arrives in Meadowlark, she finds herself in a dive bar where she can't seem to shake the eyes of a handsome cowboy. When she leads him to the back of the bar, he leaves her with a kiss that most people can only fantasize about. She almost regrets that she'll never see him again, except it turns out he's her new boss. Weston Ryder is a happy guy, even happier now that the mystery woman from the bar is an interior designer for his dream project on his family's ranch. He feels like he hit the jackpot. It's too bad she wants absolutely nothing to do with him outside of work. Ada is convinced the pull she feels towards Wes will go away, but Wes can't stop thinking about her. Even though walls are coming down around Rebel Blue, Ada's walls are firmly in place. Can they make it through this project without giving in? Or will they both put their dreams on the line for a chance at love? Like, such a good book.
That sounds so good.
It's so good. And it, like I said, just like the sweetest. And I mean, I'm gonna get a little spoiler here because I have to read a teensy little quote that like left me just like, it got me in my feels from the book. And it's quote, "I was grieving all the parts of myself that I lost or gave up in the name of comfort because I would rather have been comfortable than happy." End quote.
Wow.
Yeah. It was one of those books where you're reading it and you're like, dang.
That's a good quote. Yeah, I feel that for sure.
Yeah, I was like, man, that really hits me in the feels. So, you know, like, such a good, and it's a, it's not a like super hefty read or anything. Like, you can probably get through it in maybe a week or so. I took a little longer because it was during a reading slump, so I was slacking. But
yeah.
But yeah, just such a good book. Such a good book.
I know, like, we've talked about it many times too, and I just really want to read this book, so I need to like prioritize it. I should probably, I think it's got a decent hold list at the library, and I haven't put it on hold because I had so many that I was like trying to cycle through, and so now I finally got my hold list down enough that I can probably put it on hold, so I need to do that because I think I'm gonna like this book for sure. Yeah, cowboy romances are like the sleeping giant of the romance. Like, they're just so fun.
Yeah, I feel like they're one of those things where you just don't think you're gonna like it because you're like, oh yeah, I like cowboy romance, like yeehaw. But then you read it.
Yeehaw.
Then you read it and you're like, wow, like, it's such a good book. It's such a good romance.
I think Westerns get like a bad rap because, like, they were like, I don't know, the oldest story that Americans told for a long time. But like, I kind of like the Western. Like, I read a Western horror last year that was really good. Like Red Dead Redemption, the video game.
Listen.
Is like, we're both big fans of it. It's so good. Like, the story, like, I think it's just, I don't know. I think we just all feel like we shouldn't like Westerns because we're modern, but like, I don't know. It just brings out the American in us, I guess. I don't know, but
yeah, there's something about the like Westernness of it all that
just
really
living on the plains.
Yeah, living on the ranch, just like something. And I'm just like, I'm such a horse girl at heart. Like, I grew up around horses and riding horses, and like, so yeah, reading the first one made me feel super nostalgic, and then the second one was just even better.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put these on hold because I think I'm gonna like them for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Love it.
What's your last book?
My last book is another book of a series, and I've mentioned, I think, almost every book in this series on the podcast, so this is not a surprise, but it's the latest in the Singing Hills cycle novel or series called The Brides of High Hill by Nghi. These are short little novellas. It's about this cleric whose name is Chi, and each book is like a story in and of itself. And she is like basically this cleric who travels around to collect stories and return it to her monastery to like keep track of them. And so they're all standalone. You can read them in any order you want. This is the latest one that just came out, and it was really good. It was kind of like a darker version, like a little bit darker than the other books, and had a little bit of a mystery element to it, but it was very fun to read. I just love these books. These are like my comfort reads. Like, if I need to read something that's comforting, these are the books I think about. And this one did not disappoint. Nghi is like an amazing author. I just love everything that she writes, and this book was just fantastic, and the cover art is beautiful. All the cover art for all the books are beautiful. I should buy them physically because they're just so pretty, and I love the artwork that they have. So yeah, I'd recommend reading any one of them, honestly. And you can really start in any order. There is no like preferred reading order that I can discern. I think any order is fine. Like, so you could totally start with Brides of High Hill and then work your way back if you want to. But yeah, really, really good. Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds, again, another book that will probably be going on my TBR.
Yeah. How big is your TBR these days? We haven't talked about it in a while.
Yeah, TBR update. Let's see. How many is on my TBR?
I should look at mine too. I haven't looked at mine in a while.
Let me see here. Oh, it's only at 63. I've knocked quite a bit down.
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, because it was at like pushing like 70 something, and I'm either currently reading or have read ones that were on my TBR. So
yeah, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad.
I'm at 490.
Oh wow!
Wait, 491. I think I can't find the exact number for some reason right now. But I haven't like gone through and marked the ones that I've read on here. Like I know Brides of High Hill is on here and Real Americans, for example. So it's probably realistically like in the 480s, I would say.
Okay.
Which I think is about where it was last time. So I don't think I've put too much on my TBR. So that's good.
Yeah, really, really chipping away.
Yeah, chipping away. By the time I'm 80, I'll have it down to a manageable number.
Yes, exactly. What more can you ask for, truly?
You can't ask for much, you know. It's a good problem to have too many books to read, I think. So it's better not having enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Those are our best books that we've read so far that came out this year. Stellar. I think like stellar books.
Yes.
Honestly.
Absolutely.
You can't go wrong with any of them.
Absolutely. I think that they're just really like a great spread, and if go out and read those books. We're telling you.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, just go get them. Just go buy all of them, all 10 books. Go buy them all. Put it on your card. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Worry about it later. Like,
yeah. Tell the bookstore that we said so. They'll know.
Yeah, they'll know what to do. Yeah.
That is a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Yeah, please, God, don't send us a bill. We will not pay it. I don't know.
Yeah, I won't.
We cannot help you.
Yeah.
This podcast brings in no income, so we have nothing to do.
Yeah, I do not have that much money just floating around.
Yeah. But do go get the books.
Yes.
Support the authors. Yeah. So yeah, those are the best books that we've read so far that came out this year. We're definitely going to give an update, at the, probably tail end of this year with the books for the whole year. But yeah, this is where we're at, and I would say that we're doing great this year as far as book releases.
Absolutely.
Yes, super, super good. Well, if you have a book that you read that came out this year and you want to share it with us, well, guess what? There's a way to do it. You can email us at booksandthebeastpod@gmail.com, and you can tell us what you think of the books that we mentioned or books that you want to talk about. We'd love to have you reach out to us, so please do. We also have an Instagram, which is at booksandthebeastpod. We'd love to have you reach out to us there and say what books you're reading that you really liked, because we'd love to talk to you there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And, if you're on Instagram, you can tag the author. And a lot of times the authors respond with a very nice message because they love to see that people love to read their books. So feel free to do that too, because, we should give the authors more love than we do. I don't think authors get as much love as we think they do. Especially if they're not like, the Stephen Kings or whatever, like they don't get enough appreciation. So
yes,
we need to give them a shout out more often.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you want to give other people a shout out, like us, for example, the people that you're listening to right now, you can give us a review on your podcast listening app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you're using. Please give us a good review and let us know how you enjoy the podcast, because it helps us get more listeners, and we're always looking to grow our community. So give us that 5-star review and tell us we're doing great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of who's doing great, I want to make sure that the American Indie know that they're doing a great job with their song Rendezvous, because it's the intro and outro to our song, and it's really good. So thank you, the American Indie. You're doing great stuff too.
Yes, thank you for letting us use your song.
Yes, I don't think you know we exist, but thank you anyways.
But thank you.
But they have a Spotify. It's in our show notes, so please, feel free to go check them out and give them a like, or I don't know how to like things on Spotify, but you can probably do something like that too. So
you can.
Yeah, good. All right.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this literary journey as much as we did. If you're buzzing with excitement, don't forget to subscribe, email us, and leave a high 5-worthy review on your podcast listening app. Until next time, happy reading, and may your shelves be filled with tales as enchanting as a blooming garden. Keep the buzz alive, and we'll catch you in the next chapter. Bye for now.
Bye.